Hello there everyone, this is Miriam, holistic life coach and mind-body practitioner at Pain Outside the Box. And today I'm going to be explaining to you what we mean by thinking psychological. So the words thinking psychological were coined by Dr. John Sarno, okay, the founder, the doctor behind TMS, Tension Myositis Syndrome. And what he meant was that people who strongly suspect that there is a mind-body dimension to their pain, that there's an emotional component to their pain, should start to think in a psychological way and not in a structural way. So what he meant more specifically is that you should be looking for emotional, psychological reasons why you might be in pain and not structural reasons. So let's take the typical scenario, okay? So you've been in pain for over 4 or 6 months. You've probably tried a variety of treatments to relieve your pain without long-term relief, otherwise probably you wouldn't be watching this video, okay? You've consulted various doctors, maybe they haven't found an explanation, a structural reason behind your pain, maybe they have found something a little bit imperfect in your body, like degeneration, wear and tear, okay? Something not completely balanced, okay? And they have blamed that on your pain. But now you have been reading up on TMS, you have been thinking that maybe there could be a mind-body dimension, you have been asking questions and thinking that, how could it be structural when my pain levels change so much from day to day, okay? When actually also the pain maybe changes location and maybe the symptoms don't really correlate to any structural explanation you've been given. So you've been asking questions, you've been reading up on this, you've been hoping that you've got TMS, because that in itself would mean that your body is not broken, there's nothing wrong with it. And so you've started on this journey. So people who are at this stage, I really, really recommend to such individuals to start by setting an assumption, okay? And this assumption has to be that all your symptoms are due to the mind-body connection, even if you're not sure, okay? Of course, assuming that you've had all the medical tests to rule out anything serious. So if you're at this stage, you've had all the tests, okay? You've tried different treatments, nothing has worked, your pain comes on and off a bit randomly, or maybe it's always there, but you can't understand why it would be always present when you're not doing anything, to really aggravate the body. So you're at this stage. You've had pain for months. Some people have had pain for years. So why not set the assumption for the next 2 to 3 months that your pain is TMS? Because, nothing else has worked so far. So this is a radically different approach. But you have to start by setting the right expectations. And the reason I'm saying this is that the main stumbling block for people with TMS pain, the main reason why they don't recover is due to doubt, okay? It's because on the one hand, they think that they might have TMS. On the other hand, they still doubt whether there's something really wrong with the body or whether there is a structural physical factor that's still contributing to pain. And maybe they're still looking for answers in the wrong places. Maybe they're still looking for physically focused treatment, hoping that the next one will work. I wouldn't encourage this approach because you're constantly sending different messages to the brain. On the one hand, saying, I can do this by thinking psychological, by looking at the emotional factors behind my pain and, talking to my brain and all the rewiring techniques involved. On the other hand, you're still doubting. So like for every positive expectation you're setting in the direction of TMS, you're feeding it with doubt, you're debunking it with doubt. And this is the reason why you're not making progress, because you can't try to believe 2 different things at the same time. So how do you think psychological specifically? So first of all, I always like to recommend by starting to make a case. Make a case for your TMS, for your symptoms being TMS. And this could be by, for example, linking the onset of symptoms to a stressful event or a change in your life or a transition, okay? So this is like one of the most obvious links that one can make. Sometimes it's not so obvious, in everyone's case, but sometimes when you look back at the onset of symptoms, it is quite, obvious. There's something major that happened that kind of disturbed you, upset you, and then you got the pain shortly after, okay? Sometimes it's a little bit more subtle, and as we go along, over the months or years, we are feeding the pain also with other psychological factors, with other emotions like fear, with other stressors that crop up throughout our lives, okay? With other events, such as, an instance when we're maybe a little bit more active than we felt comfortable being, and then maybe we felt the pain shortly after. So in that instance, we have to make the link between how we were thinking, what thoughts we were having during an activity, okay, or after, and the symptoms, okay? Sometimes we need to make the link between something that someone else has told us, like a doctor who has scared us about our body, okay, or a friend, and our symptoms. So we can start to notice that maybe our symptoms intensified after talking to the doctor or after talking to this particular friend with back pain, okay? So we have to start making these connections. And this is what Sarno meant by thinking psychological. Another way to do it is, let's say you get a flare-up, you're having a very bad pain day, you stop, and instead of wondering what could be wrong with your body, what happened physically, what did you eat, how did you move, you ask yourself what might have happened today, earlier today, or maybe yesterday, that could have been causing this flare, okay? And maybe you can find an answer there. Maybe there was someone who said something that upset you. Maybe something happened and you thought it was no big deal, but deep down you're actually really, really angry about what happened, okay? And the next step after that would be to acknowledge these feelings, acknowledge these emotions, any unpleasantness, any unpleasant emotion that might have surfaced lately, okay? And focus on these emotions. There is journal work that you can do in this regard. There's various exercises that you can do in order to process your emotions, in order to avoid repressing them, okay? And this is exactly what we mean by thinking psychological. So instead of getting a symptom and wondering what's causing it physically, you actually think what could have caused it emotionally. And even if it's just a guess, that's okay, really, because you're still changing focus. You're still letting go of blaming structural factors for your pain. And even though this particular event wasn't the main driver behind your pain, it's still good to journal about it for your emotional well-being. It's still good to feel all your negative feelings and acknowledge them first before you can move on, before you can think of what you can change in your life. Okay? And at the same time, your brain will be distracted with this issue rather than with the pain itself. Because when the brain gets distracted by the pain, there's more fear, okay? There's more obsession in the body, there's more hypervigilance, and all of these behaviors are actually feeding chronic pain. Okay, so yeah, the main point I wanted to get across today is that you make it a habit of asking yourself what your symptoms could mean. What could they be telling you? Okay, about how you're feeling, about the situation, okay, about how you're feeling about the pain itself and your own fear of the body and your own health anxiety, okay? So look for psychological reasons behind the pain. If you've already done the structural treatments, if you've already tried enough, maybe now's the time to say, I'm going to take a month or two to think psychological, do all the work, and see what happens. Because really, that's the process. That's what is required. To do the work, trust, and see what happens. Okay, so that's all from me for today. If you'd like more guidance and structure with TMS work and brain rewiring techniques, you can have a look at my online recovery program, Pain-Free Breakthrough, which is available via my website. I'll put the link beneath the description. Okay, take care everyone and see you next time. Bye-bye.